Welcome back at the masterclass of Dr. Bartler. Today I would like to introduce you our 743, our automatic sewing machine for stitching darts and waist pleats. Dr. Bartler is offering two different subclasses, the 743 121-01, which has a double chain stitch sewing head, and the 743 221-01, which has a double lock stitch sewing head. Let's see in detail what you will find on this machine classes. The subclass 121, as I mentioned, with a double chain stitch sewing head, has the advantage of, because we have one needle thread and the looper thread, and the chain stitch loop is on the bottom side of the material, so that means we have less puckering in the seam. Even it's very interesting for very thin materials, for example, very elastic materials. We have no bobbin changes, and due to the chain stitch version, we have the highest performance what you can get in the market, which can do approximately 6,500 to 7,000 darts or waist pleats in 8 hours working time. Sorry. So, if we talk about trousers, it is around 16 to 1700 trousers in 8 hours working time, with 4 seams each trouser. So if we talk about the 221 subclass, which is the double lock stitch version, of course here we have bobbin changes because we have needle and bobbin thread, and the thread loop is in the middle of the material. So that means, as usual for double lock stitch, if we have the loop inside the material, we have maybe in critical or difficult to stitch materials a little puckering, which is normal on lock stitch. So the performance here, because of bobbin changes, is a little less but still very high on the machine, which is 6,000 to 6,500 darts in 8 hours working time, means 15 to 1,600 trousers with 4 seams per trouser. So I would like to show you a small video. So what we do is, actually we work overlap, means the operator is loading one material, pushing the table into the machine, and while stitching she takes the next piece. So by this system we are able to have this high performance. Machine is equipped with the control panel OP3000. This is a control panel with buttons, very simple and easy to adjust, very simple to program, because we are using small icons which explains what to change to switch on or off. Functions like stitch condensing in the beginning, middle or end, functions like a stacker switch on or off, so very simple and easy to program. Then the machine is equipped, in combination with the control panel OP3000, with the DUC Classic control, including an additional control unit. You see this here. And this control unit allows to use also the machine ID on the machine. That means the machine ID contains the informations about the parameter settings, and in case you have to change the control panels, the controls, then it's quick and easy to change because the parameters remain on the machine ID. The machine ID is mounted in the machine head, and the change for the control boxes will be much easier and quick. So what the machine is doing, as I said, the machine is stitching darts and waist pleats, for example, in trousers or skirts. So I would like to show you where you find it. This is men's or ladies' trousers is the same. So this is on the back trouser, a single dart on each side. You could also have double darts here, but this is the dart I am talking about. So in case you have two pockets at the end point of the dart, it is very important that we create a perfect dart without dimple at the end. I will explain this later. In case I have a pocket, here you see a back trouser with two darts and only one pocket, and the other side has two darts without pocket, and here we see it that the dart is super nice flat, and at the end we have a nice flat material without any dimple at the end. The dimple is a problem if you create this while stitching, because here we are decreasing the quality of a trouser if our dimple area, the dimple here at the end is too big. To reduce these dimples, we have a very nice system on the machine. I will show you in the next step. And what else we do is we are stitching waist pleats. So our machine is not stitching only a straight seam, because this is very bad for the quality. Here, very important is we are stitching straight, and then we stitch a little curve with a stitch condensing and stitch inside, finish the seam inside the pleat. Has a big advantage. If I am wearing the trouser and I had a good lunch, so my belly is a little bigger. So where is the biggest tension on my trouser if I'm sitting, and we are sitting a lot maybe, then the biggest tension on this waist pleat is here at the end of this pleat. So if you just make a straight seam, what will happen? The back tack at the end will after some time create a hole in your material. So your customer will not be very happy if he get damaged his trouser so quickly. So that means what we do is, again, we are stitching a curve here with the stitch condensing to secure the end of the pleat and finish the seam inside. This system of stitching the pleats is 100% safe, 100% sure that we do not get any problems of the material holes at the end of the pleat. So, and now I would like to show you something, what we do to avoid the dimples at the end of the dart. Please follow me here to our board. Let's say this is the material. So you fold your back trouser, and this is a material edge. We have 3 different seams. That's why I already draw 3 different materials which are folded. So the first seam we are stitching is a dart, a straight dart. So my first seam is a straight dart. So here we start at the point and we just stitch straight up to the waist. So this seam is a straight seam. What I can program here is I can have stitch condensing or back tacking, depends of chain stitch or lock stitch, at the end and at the beginning of the seam. So that means here I have a straight seam. The second seam, what I could create, which gives a much better quality, is a so-called little curved dart. A curved dart means I start stitching here at the point, maybe with a stitch condensing, and I just make a little curve in my seam, and I have a stitch condensing or back tacking at the end. So I have here a smaller angle of my seam, and that means if I turn my material afterwards, I do not have such a big dimple here at the end of my my seam. So that means the angle here is smaller than the angle here. So, and this is the critical point for this dimple. So in case you have a straight dart, and this is, if you stitch it manually, very often the case, if somebody has to place the double welt pocket afterwards on your back trouser, the person will have the problem that this part of the material always stands up a little bit, and then it's more difficult to place the pocket welt on top. If you reduce the angle here at the end, means a less dimple, so it's much easier for the operator to position the material flat and to create and stitch the welt afterwards on the back trouser. Then the third seam, what we can do is, we can do the waist pleat. And the waist pleat we can stitch straight or better a little slanted. I will do that, little slanted. And then I will have my curve with a stitch condensing, and I will finish my seam with or without stitch condensing. I can choose this as I want. The advantage here is, as I mentioned, if I have only a straight seam, which a lot of people do on the single needle lock stitch machine, they just stitch straight and make a back tag here. What happens here? This is a problem, because if you're wearing the trouser after a good lunch, you create a hole at the end of this seam, and then you damage the material. So this is a problem. We don't do that. We do it much better. We do it in that way. We are stitching straight or little slanted, and we have here the stitch condensing, which secures this critical point on the front trouser. Okay, so let me continue with the presentation. So, what else we have as an advantage on the machine? So, first of all, I would like to give you the idea that for the 743, we are offering a very nice product video, which is available on our homepage and on YouTube. I will not show you the whole video now. Take your time, see it in a quiet minute, because what I have done is we have cut it in snippets, and I'm showing these snippets which are interesting and necessary for you in the main presentation here. So, advantages. The machine is super simple to use. So that means operator just have to load to a certain point, push the table into the machine, and that means I have a very short training time to use this machine in a perfect way. Beside this, the machine is offering a super perfect quality and a constant quality. That means one piece after the other is 100% the same. Important in the length of the dart and, as I mentioned, in the shape of the dart. We have quick adjustments available for different kind of material thicknesses, because again, the dimple, the peak point of the dart is very important. So here, quick adjustments are available. For stretch materials, we are offering a vacuum table to make sure that we are tension-free sewing stretch materials, critical materials, which are normally difficult to get a straight dart. I'm sure that you know and you face the problem in the production that if you have stretch materials, sometimes you have a so-called banana dart. This happens because the operator works fast. They turn the material, maybe they pull the material while stitching, and then you get this curved dart and this banana dart, which creates a problem in your quality. So to avoid these banana darts, we are offering here a vacuum table to have super nice straight darts. So, and then we can quickly change between darts and waist pleats. I will show you later on the machine by templates. So we are using templates here on the machine, which gives a perfect repeated pleat or repeated seam on your dart and pleat. So you have here the standard folding table. So the operator here is just loading the material, folding it around this table, having a marking for the length, for example, of the dart, pushing the table in, and that's it. Better for the quality, especially for difficult to stitch material, especially for vacuum table, for stretch materials, the vacuum table is recommended. And here I would like to show you. So the vacuum table, hold the material stressless. The operator just concentrate on the middle notch of the dart. She has a marking for the length and a marking for the right position of the waist edge. And then she just push, just push the table into the machine. And that means we are not stretching the material. We are not influencing the seam while stitching. And that's why we get with the vacuum table super straight darts and no banana darts. Coming to the bundle clamps, we are offering two different systems. One system is depending on both systems are depending on the folding table. So if the folding table, the standard folding table is used on the machine, means we have the bundle system in front of the machine. So that means in the price list or in our catalog, you will see the bundle clamp for the working method taking up the front piece from the front, because I'm sitting here and taking it from the front. And then I have another bundle clamp. Actually, it is the same bundle clamp, but different mounted. So that means we are mounting the bundle clamp on the left side in case of using the vacuum table. Why we do that? You can see here on the picture that on the bottom side of the vacuum table, there are some tubes, some cables and so on, and these cables disturb in case you want to use the bundle clamp from the front. That's why we have to position it from the left side, and yeah, this works very well. I will show you one system here. This is the system bundle clamp from the left side. We are stitching the material and blowing the material out afterwards in the middle between table and bundle clamp. I will show you in the next video. Okay, so then we have two different blowing out positions. Again, depending on how I load the material, depending on what kind of folding table I'm using, I can blow out the material to the left side because the bundle clamp is on the front, in front of the operator. Or I do have a blowing device mounted on the left side because we blow the stitched material between the folding table and the bundle clamp. So here you see a production video with a standard folding table. Bundle clamp is in the front of the operator. The operator is folding the material around, and we do have here a blowing device which blows out my material to the left side into my bundle clamp. Then we do have the other position. The blowing out device is mounted on the head on the left side, and we blow the material between the folding table and the bundle clamp. After stitching, a short air pressure comes and then we blow it between these two tables. Okay, so then I mentioned in the beginning that we do have different quick adjustments on the machine. One of it is the quick adjustment for the angle of the dart. So depending on how much is my dart angle, I can quickly change it on my machine. I will show you the video. I have to switch off the machine, push the table into the template, and here I do have the adjustment. I push it together and I can change the angle from 0 up to 10 degree width. And this here is very important. Moment. You see here a very nice example. If the angle and the first stitch at the dart is perfectly adjusted, I have nearly no dimple. And this is what I mean with dimple. So you see this small area here and compare it to this area here. So this area happens very often if we stitch the darts manually. And this creates more problems in placing the pocket, the pipe pocket afterwards. Or if I have no pockets, I always have this dimple at the end. To reduce this, important is, we remember we have this smaller or this curved dart to have a smaller angle at the end. Then to create this dimple at the end less, we have a fine adjustment which we use to adjust the dimple and adjust it for thick and thin materials. So operator has here a handle to change, and we have 7 different settings. That means 7 different material thicknesses or 7 different settings for this peak point of the dart to reduce the dimple. Operator can quickly change it on her own just by turning, pulling the table to the right position, fix the table again, and that's it. Now coming to the sewing lengths. Sewing lengths should be minimum 30 millimeter and can be maximum 150 millimeter. So, and we are talking about a length of the dart like this. For trousers, in general, it is between 70 and 80 millimeter length, so this is more than enough. Ladies' trousers, they are a little bit longer, but with 150 millimeter, you should normally cover all your requirements here. So very simple. Operator gets just the marking on the table, and then she's loading the notch of the middle point of the dart to this marking, and then she starts stitching, pushing the table into the template, and that's it. So the seam lengths can be programmed in 2 different ways. I can use my light barrier on the machine, so we have a fully automatic recognition. Independent if the operator position the material a little longer or shorter, or if I want to be super precise on a length of, let's say, 75 millimeter, I can program a length of 75 and the machine will not stitch longer than 75. Okay, last but not least of my presentation, as I mentioned, we have 3 different seams. That means 3 different templates. And these templates you can see here on the right side of my page here. The first one is a straight dart, so that means this seam is a straight seam. Then we have a curved dart, that means a little curve at the end of the dart to make sure that we have a very small angle, means less dimple at the end. And that means here, the second drawing you see here, the red one would be the straight seam, and the curved one is a little less, especially at the end here, to reduce the angle. The distance from the folding edge to the stitching could be in degrees, 0 to 10 degrees, depends how much depth you need here on your dart. So changing from one dart or pleat to the other, very simple. You switch off the machine, you take out this template, take the next one in. You have certain loading positions here. Restart the machine, machine will get referenced, change the program if necessary, and then you can start stitching the next, the next seam. So here you have a symbol of, or a video of a straight dart, a curved dart, or a waist pleat. I will show you again. Straight dart, curved dart, and waist pleat. So the third template is sewing of the waist pleat. So that means we are stitching, as I mentioned, a little straight inside the pleat, have a little curve here where we can program stitch condensing, and we stitch up to the waist how long it ever is. Okay, that was my theoretical part of the presentation, and now please follow me to the machine. I would like to show you the special parameters directly on my machine. So this is a machine class 743 1-to-1 subclass. You can see it here now. As you can see here, the thread tension. So this is the chain stitch sewing head. The machine is in this case equipped with a vacuum table. You can see it here. So the vacuum table can be easily switched on and off with a knee switch here. On and off, very simple. So I have my hands free to activate or deactivate my vacuum. So then on the vacuum table we have the adjustment for the dart peak, that means the dimple, the end of the dart, that means changing from one position to the other, very simple. I open here the screw, I move the table a little bit in, and then here there is a pin. I have 7 different settings, and I can have different settings for different material thicknesses, means for different position sewing starts of my seam. So I pull this to this pin, fix the table perfectly, and then I could start stitching. As I mentioned, we can also have a different angle on the dart. Therefore, I have to switch off the machine, push the table into the template here, and then I do have here these 2 plates. This I have to push together, and then I can change the angle of my dart or pleat by moving this table according to the position I need. Okay, I release it, pull out the table, and the machine could be ready to start. You can see here on my machine I do have a curved dart. You can see here the little curved seam. So 3 different templates are available, the straight or curved dart, and the third template would be the template for waist pleats. The machine here is also equipped with a bundle clamp on the left side and blowing out device from the bottom. So beside this, the machine is equipped here with the control panel OP3000 and the Duck Classic control in combination. Now I would like to switch on the machine and I will show you how to stitch the machine. Machine will start, my control panel will ask for reference and you have to just confirm it with OK. The machine will make the small reference and then the display will show and appear what is the setting of the machine. So to move from one parameter to the other, you have these arrows here. So by using the arrow, I can change here, for example, the program or the length of the seam. In this case is 75 millimeter seam length with a stitch length of 2.4 or 2.5 millimeter. Here we have the piece counter. Here we can get into the program parameters, simple as it is, by OK. And here you can choose now the speed, soft start, straight chain, at start, back tack, and so on and so on. All the parameters for the program. Getting out of this, you choose escape here. And here on the bottom line, you can activate or deactivate some parameters. The first parameter is activating or deactivating the light barrier in front of the sewing head. So that means now the light barrier is activated, means the machine would start with the material and stop with the material. And if I want to have fixed sewing length, I deactivate the light barrier and I can program a fixed length of my dart. Here I can activate or deactivate stitch condensing or backtacking in seam beginning. In the middle of the seam means for waist pleats, for example. In the curve, we remember there we wanted to have some stitch condensing, and at the end of the seam activating or deactivating. Then we have the stacker here activating or deactivating of the stacking process of the bundle clamp, and activating or deactivating of the blowout device. This is very simple, very easy to program. Not so many different adjustments necessary because the seam in general is a short, quick, easy seam where we have certain parameters which will be repeated all the time. So then I would like to start the machine. So you have your bundle here in the bundle clamp, and the length of your dart is very simple to load. So you have normally a marking on the table to have the correct length. And what we do is now we use the notch. Normally you have a middle notch, so I will use this notch now. For the middle position of my dart, I can have a marking also for the right positioning of my waist edge. And as soon as the position is correct, I switch on with my knee the vacuum on the table, and I just push the table into the clamp. So I'll take back my garment here. So, okay, I have just changed the templates. That's why the first threads are not so proper done. I will do one more. Switch on, push the table inside, I will switch off the blowing device here because for demonstration it's not so nice. So here you can see, advantage of my chain stitch is I have a little chain at my sewing start. This is a big advantage because you have a safe sewing start. We have a little curved dart. That means the angle, the starting point of my dart is very close to the edge. And then we stitch till the end perfectly and add some stitches outside the material. This you can only do and have for chain stitch sewing head. For lock stitch, as you know, this is not possible. For lock stitch, we have to start and stop inside the material to avoid any thread breakage. So, and now I will show you the dart. The dimple is nearly invisible because we have a nice seam end here close to the edge, which give us a very small dimple at the end. So now I would like to show you, in case you have the wrong setting here for the sewing start, that means peak point of your dart. I will just create now a wrong positioning. I will choose another material. With lining or without lining, 2 layers, no problem. I just have to load my material, switch on the vacuum and start stitching. So you see here, super nice straight seam, perfectly matching, but you can see here a bigger dimple. You see this hole at the end of the dart because the first stitch is not outside the material, we stitch inside the material. So then we are creating a little bigger dimple, and this is normally not, quality-wise, not the thing what we want. We want to have less dimple as possible. To afterwards create the double welt on top to make it easier, or without a welt to have this nice, clean and proper. Okay, so what else? Then I would like to show you how you can change from one template to the other. Very simple. You please switch off the machine. Push the template together. Move the template to the left side, and important is, please pay attention on your peak point of the needle to not get damaged this needle. And now, just a second, I have to turn here this part and take out the template. I will change now the template to pleats. Boom. And now I will put this template into the system. Important is here, you have a certain point to load the template. This pin needs to be locked inside this part here to make sure that the position of the template is correct. Then again, you push these 2 templates together, load it underneath the needle. And with chain stitch, you have to re-thread the needle because the needle will get cut after moving out the template. So this I will do now. I will cut the thread and re-thread the machine. I will switch on the machine, reference the machine again. Okay, and now I take another material. Attention, now don't forget, the first pleat will have a long straight end. So that means the first one normally should be done on material, a separate material, not on the original trouser. Then I'm loading my front trouser to the right length, push the table inside the machine. So, as you can see, it is perfectly stitched. I have chosen in this case the program of the dart, means stitch condensing at the beginning and end of the seam. And now I would like to change it because I want to add one more stitch condensing here in the corner. So what I do is I just activate the stitch condensing here in the middle. I can program on which position the stitch condensing will be afterwards. So I just hold this, activate my vacuum again. And you can see here perfectly. So we have stitch condensing in the beginning. We have stitch condensing in the round corner here. And we have stitch condensing at the end. So that means if I turn this now, the area here is super safe if I wear this trouser, even with a very good lunge, with high pressure on the last stitch of my pleat. It will always look perfect and will not damage the material. Okay, so this was the presentation of our class 743, automatic dart and pleat sewing. I hope you liked the presentation and looking forward to see you at our next presentation. Thank you very much and have a nice day.